Hello my friends and welcome to this new video. It's never good to make an intro apologizing, but this time it's really needed, as in case you haven't noticed in video part 1, we have birds, so please disregard the squawking you may hear now and then, and if you haven't watched video part 1, please find it below. A lot has happened in 2024, but even more has happened in 2025. In these first few months, my head is still spinning. Therefore, some of the events that you'll be watching in this video may have changed drastically, and the reason I use the word drastically is because of the magnitude of the events that have been happening. Today we will be looking at some of the consequences of the recent massive migrant influx into the US via the southern border. And we'll try to understand how what we are witnessing is actually a human tragedy of immense proportions that seems to have been fueled instead of being tackled. The story section will feature a young girl's take on her personal Nicaragua-US journey. For the opinion section, once again, Clara Piven's strategy has brought me to wonder how much of the chaos generated at the US-Mexico southern border between 2021 and 2024 was actually desired. Meaning, were there specific political strategies set in place to willfully reshape our society by bringing in modern slaves and disrupting the welfare system? That is a question we need to ask ourselves. And this is without even touching the ghastly aspect of the billion-dollar worth illicit markets thriving and in need of human trafficking just to exist. Markets of which the US is one of the major, if not the major, consumer on a global level. Now let that sink in. In my opinion, legacy media has worked tirelessly in these past few years to downplay, depict as positive, and most of the times not even cover the dramatic realities and consequences of this massive influx. I'm not the only one to believe we are spectators of an engineered demographic shift. And let's not forget that the same exact events are happening in Europe too. In the UK, in 2022 alone, more migrants have crossed the English Channel than ever before. Now, why the European Union and the US leaders have implemented these very similar policies, right, can be the subject definitely for another video. And why very select few European leaders, the ones that actually refused to implement these policies and don't really agree with them, and obviously came out about it, are being targeted by legacy media. That can be the subject for an even more interesting video, okay? Nevertheless, we cannot ignore the bigger picture, the massive need for cheap labor as the birth rate plummets in the Western world. Let's get to it. So where are they coming from? All over the world. Afghanistan, China, Iraq, Yemen, Ukraine, Haiti, Latin America, Africa. How are they getting here? Well, it becomes more and more evident how nothing is actually casual or coincidence. There seems to be a very well-organized effort detailing cost, itinerary, stop points, involving the cooperation of non-profit organizations as well as governments, including the American government, to aid these arrivals. Many of these migrants are escaping their countries because of COVID policies, shutting down their businesses in Latin America and China alike. And we think COVID changed our lives. Anyway, some sources report that the reason many decide to enter illegally is simply because they don't know how to do it legally, or because the trip has been organized for them by somebody else, generally family members that already made it here and are settled here, or friends, and that's how they did it, so why change? Now, I've spoken with a girl from Nicaragua. She entered by herself through the southern border. Her trip lasted several days. She was dressed as a man to avoid being raped. And with the group she was traveling with, at nighttime they slept in churches. So that's how they, survived. And once she arrived at the Rio Grande, she saw the coyotes. And one thing she made very, very sure to tell me is nunca con los coyotes, meaning never, never go with the coyotes, okay? She was able to cross the river thanks to a young Mexican kid that was over there. He showed her a good spot, but she remembers, and she told me, of course, that next to her was a mother with her little child, 5 or 6 years old, and unfortunately the child got taken by the current, and nobody tried to help them. The mother just kept going. Many people are drowning every single day. Maybe they talk about it once on the mainstream news, but it happens every day. And the problem is, it happens because they are crossing where it is illegal to cross. If they crossed in one of the legal crossings, this wouldn't be happening. We have to keep in mind that it is in the best interest of everyone to do things the right way, the legal way. Mothers, sisters, sons, daughters, they are currently still looking for their loved ones. I have the story of Lupe Calle Peralta. She's one of many Ecuadorians that have disappeared. This woman had paid her coyote $17,000 in 2021. Her family is still looking for her. Mixed communication was coming out of the local government in Ciudad Juarez in Mexico, where the coyote was supposed to pick her up and then bring her to the US, but this doesn't seem to have ever happened. Nobody knows. Although even the White House has addressed the issue on disappearing people, did you know that in 2022, 85,000 children have entered the border, taken into the custody of government officials, and disappeared? Nobody knows where they are. The director of the Office of Refugee Resettlement was not able to answer why the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services lost contact with these 85,000 children. And this is why it is so important things need to be done the right way. Don't incentivize this. Don't push for this to happen even more. Now, have you heard of these 85,000 children disappearing, given to the custody of the government? Did you hear about this? Border officials have a federal order to give these asylum seekers a court date and then release them. So according to the National Border Patrol count, that represents about 18,000 Border Patrol agents, and there is a 90% membership rate among those Border Patrol agents that are eligible. So according to them, the vast majority of these people crossing illegally and claiming asylum never show up to the court date. They just simply disappear. Let's talk about the Darien Gap and Chinese migrants. This is very interesting. Now, the Darien Gap is a 60-mile stretch of jungle connecting Colombia with Panama, and it's one of the most dangerous places on Earth. It's described as the most dangerous migration passage in the world, actually. It can simply be described as a nightmare. It's filled with bodies, whatever the migrants that actually passed it and survived left behind. I mean, if they survive the jungle, they become prey of these criminal gangs that rob them and rape them, generally happening overnight. There's no churches there where they can sleep. There is actually an alarming increase in the frequency of mass sexual violence, sometimes involving more than 100 victims at the same time. Now, the Darien Gap, with its increase in migrant passings, because, these welcoming policies, people know around the world, people know, and they want to keep coming. So with the increase of these migrant passings, unfortunately, human trafficking has grown there also. Local politicians and drug trafficking groups are making a lot of money. So not only here, but also there. And we know all of this thanks to the reports from Doctors Without Borders. In this dreaded piece of tropical land, there are camps. These are transit camps. They have been set up for the migrants. And there's one particular camp called San Vicente. I know about this because I watched an interview to scientist Brett Weinstein. It's linked down below. You can watch the full interview. And it's very interesting. This scientist has lived there, worked there. He has a lot of experience of the area. And he was there recently. According to him, the transit camp of San Vicente, and if you go on Google Maps, you can find it too. There's also some videos. It's very interesting because it's managed, definitely managed, probably owned too, and only populated by Chinese nationals. It's set up with containers, and Senafront, which is the Panamanian border control, prohibits to enter it. No pictures taken either. So you can't go in, you can't take pictures, you can't talk to anybody there. What you can find online has been taken secretly. In 2022, Ecuador has documented about 13,000 Chinese nationals entering the country. In the first 11 months of 2023, the number rose to 45,000 entering. Okay? So Ecuador has become, for many, including thousands of Chinese, a gateway to the U.S. Now, 37,000 Chinese were arrested at the U.S.-Mexico border in 2023, according to this report. And it's not surprising to find out that there actually is a growing network of businesses and social media accounts that are catered to the Chinese migrants. They travel from all over the world, go to Ecuador, no visas, and then go in the U.S. Now, I was talking about the Chinese, but they're coming from all over the world, like we said before. So as Brett Weinstein goes on in his interview, he states that it's quite evident that all Central American countries right now know what's going on, and they sort of close an eye, letting the flow of migrants go through, as long as they don't stay there. Yeah, we'll let you come through. You want to go to the U.S., that's fine. Just you can cross our country as long as you don't stay. Mr. Weinstein goes on to mention also how these transit camps are set up and financed by NGOs that are tied to the United Nations and to the U.S. government. You can see American flags there. And, well, I mean, it may come as a surprise for some of you, but really, it's not anything new. It's not the first time that the people out there to supposedly help you are actually the ones that are financing the humanitarian and fueling this humanitarian crisis in the first place. Now, human traffickers are making a lot of money, thanks to Biden's, let's call them, welcoming policies. What is going on is definitely a needless human tragedy. A global report on trafficking in persons. Now, as mentioned, human trafficking is one of the scariest and utterly abhorrent crimes, yet very alive and thriving, like I said, especially in the last few years. Unfortunately, this represents the future for thousands of these asylum seekers, okay? Slavery never ended. Now, based on the data gathered from 155 countries, the Global Report on Trafficking in Persons gives us a evaluation on this despicable yet so profitable practice, and what is done to stop it, which unfortunately is not enough. Many countries don't even seem to realize it's going on. At the launch of the report in New York, the executive director of United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, Antonio Maria Costa, said that many governments are still in denial. There is even neglect when it comes to either reporting or prosecuting cases of human trafficking. 2 out of every 5 countries covered by the report had not even recorded one single conviction. As a side note, we've heard lately in the mainstream about nations for descendants of slaves. Thousands of millions of people that are trafficked in the world right now, so slaves. Why don't we focus on them? It's next door, it's in our cities, it's in the towns, it's everywhere. January is Human Trafficking Prevention Month. Did you know that? On February 13th, 2024, Secretary of Homeland Security, Mayorkas, got impeached for violating laws enacted by Congress regarding immigration and border security. As mentioned in the introduction, these past few years were marked by a record high increase of encounters at the U.S. southern border. According to border officials, these encounters include both the people that came in illegally as well as the people that did it in a lawful manner but were deemed inadmissible. Authorities in charge do not have the exact number of how many people came in. This is a BBC article citing the U.S. Department of Homeland Security that reports an estimated 11 million illegal migrants were living in the U.S. as of January 2022, although many of those actually came to the U.S. way before Biden's presidency, some as far back as the 80s. So this means there's people that are and have been living in the U.S. for over 40 years with status of illegal, and they probably are working, so they were probably unlawfully working. From 2021 to 2024, the Biden administration has implemented several policies to positively insert these asylum seekers, these refugees, these migrants, these people into our society, such as food stamps, free housing, credit cards, health insurance, and so on. Obviously, every policy has always, met different types of reactions from the general public. And what about the jobs? Okay, you can't come here and expect to do nothing, right? Most of those, I would say, coming here want to work. They need to work, right? The Department of State's Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, PRM, announced on December 12, 2022, a public-private initiative with the Tent Partnership for Refugees to support employment opportunities and economic integration for refugees and other forcibly displaced people around the globe. What is TENT? TENT is an alliance of hundreds of major companies, U.S. companies, for example, to cite the most famous ones, we have Amazon, we have Marriott, we have Pfizer, just to name a few. So these companies have come together. They have done this alliance, this cooperation, this partnership with the main goal and the main mission to help refugees get an employment through hiring, training, and mentorship. TENT was funded in 2005 by Hamdi Ulukaya. It currently operates in 11 countries across the Americas and the European Union. And although it was funded in 2005, it actually was kind of launched even more in 2016, thanks to Obama and Vice President at the time, Biden. In June 2023, the 10th Partnership for Refugees European Summit took place in Paris. It aimed to accelerate the economic integration of refugees in Europe. Then U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken was there, and he reminded everyone that Europe is currently facing the biggest, the largest refugee crisis since World War II, that there are there are 12 million refugees from all over the world currently taking shelter in the European continent. He signed the formal agreement with tent founder Ulu Kaya. The collaboration focuses on reducing barriers for businesses to hire refugees and enhancing their integration into new communities. Some companies have faced backlash because of their partnership with Tent. One example, Tyson Foods. Some outlets have reported that angry investors pulled their holdings from the corporation, and the general audience, the general public, mostly online, was expressing their unhappiness because why would a big corporation want to hire a refugee instead of a legal citizen of the country they're in? It's time to wrap it up. What do you think about all of this? Thank you for watching.